everyone is throwing the beach volleyballs up at me, and I got to like, combat the entire audience with my inflatable palm tree. That was one of my.
Thanks for reminding me. I missed out on that day.
Yeah,
that was like one of the only days I haven't been on an LCS in like 8 years. I don't even know why, but I just wasn't on that day. And then
that's the real reason why it's one of my favorite memories.
Okay, buddy. Wow. Let's calm it down. Holy
moly! I'm just now connecting the dots.
Okay. You know what? I hope early game champs get deleted. I hope Oliver gets nerfed next patch. I'm a messaging freak.
Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 10, Episode number 5.
Thank you.
That we're going to do a rotating episode. I can do a swivel chair episode.
It's always been a swivel chair.
Yeah, but I never decided to go mobile with it,
Yeah.
Now I can quickly check your facial expressions instead of siding towards one person.
That's true.
We were still discussing the most topical news of the day.
Yeah.
I think the most topical one is the Blabber interview where he is
with Sheep Esports.
With Sheep Esports, and I think it's very self-aware kind of description Blabber gives him of himself, and very succinct. So that was a good one.
Yeah. So one of the questions, I'll give you the direct quote. So the question was, how have these expectations prepared you for the year? Because Blabber was talking about wanting to do a lot better this year. And he said, I want to develop my consistency in mid to late game. I think my early game is the best in the league. To be honest, I have one of the best early games in the world regarding pathing, but I would make many mistakes mid to late game. I would get caught for no reason or make a nonsensical engage. That was a big weakness I had last year. And a big goal of mine is stay more composed, process what I'm going to do, consider the response of my actions, and think about the bigger picture of the game instead of acting impulsively. This is something I've been working on going into 2026. I'm hoping to keep consistent for the rest of the year because it just started.
Sounds like some New Year's resolutions. It's like, I'm going to consider the consequences of my actions now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to impulsively engage unless it looks really good that I'm going for it.
I like it, and it's a lot of things that people have said kind of like anecdotally about Blabber, over the years, for a while, and it always has been, some of the strengths and some of the weaknesses. And it's always important to be aware of your weaknesses because then you can kind of use that against your opponents as well as far as what they're going to expect you to do. And I think that Blabber, it is maybe a little bit lopsided with the recent games all being against FlyQuest, but he has definitely showcased the early game prowess and the pathing advantages over Griffin in multiple games, multiple series now. I thought the second series as well, that it was on display once again, and so I think it was timely.
Yeah, he is just insane at early game cheeses, basically. Well, I would consider them cheeses, and I think a lot of people do, but maybe he doesn't consider it cheese. Well, no, he probably does.
Tactical planning.
I think he calls them cheeses when I talk to him about it, but basically just being aware of all of them does add a lot. He's been someone that's always been really, really good at solo queue. 70% win rate to challenger in Korea, NA, everywhere basically. And when I watch his games, he does a lot of stuff like, start at their Raptors level 1 or take their Raptors and invade. He does a lot of small mind games too. He'll go and rush to a spot and ward it and then see if the enemy wards, knowing that the only way they can stop this is by doing this very specific thing. So one thing that I thought was super cool in his game against FlyQuest, where he was playing Ambessa, is earlier in the season I was talking to Blabber about jungle, basically just saying, hey, if you were in a life or death jungle solo queue game and you had to win this game, what champion are you picking? And I was thinking Rek'Sai because she's really good win rate. And he said, no, never Rek'Sai. He would go Ambessa. And then he was telling me about the level 1 cheese. Basically, you just sit in the line brush by mid, if you're blue side, and then walk in at 52 seconds, and you can just QQ their Raptor, and it kills the big one with Smite, and there's no way you can lose a Smite fight. And then you just walk through mid, and you just start breaking down all the stuff. And so then when he was playing against FlyQuest, I think Griffin is aware of that strat. So he actually walked into the line brush and started fighting Blabber level 1, so he couldn't do that. But then Blabber still has the fallback as well. He just said, okay, I can't do that, so I know that I can full clear faster than him and Ambessa. I know when's the hen's going to end. And so he did that pathing where he walked through the bottom tri-bush, got behind him, and then jumped him on the crab because Griffin thought he couldn't be there. So just being able to understand all of these different timers, I think makes him really, really good in the early game. And, until you've been punished by it, it's hard to really know all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's an example of his early game dominance.
I mean,
and he just knows it on all the matchups.
Back-to-back series against Griffin, right? Like it felt like there was, kind of like these knowledge gaps that were allowing to get massive early game leads, right? Where he's able to, create these advantages where it felt like, okay, it already feels cooked and it's like 2 minutes into the game. And players like that are just kind of scary to play against, even if you are a really good player, because if someone is willing to take something that's like a little bit more of a risky move, but it could screw you if you don't account for it, then do you kind of like slow your own pathing or put yourself behind potentially a little bit by like trying to account for this cheese that they could be doing? Or do you just like flip it and hope that they're not there? Or you know what I mean? Like it changes how people want to plan out their own early game, which I think is something that's always really powerful about that. It's the same mindset that I think I've always thought when I thought about players like River and players that are mixing in early game ganks, right? Where it's like, okay, you have to account for that as a laner, and now you can't necessarily like take a trade that you want to trade because like maybe this guy's in the bush kind of thing. So I think it's really, really nice when players mix in this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it just reminds me of when you don't turn off, I never turn off nameplates, and you'll get into like a solo queue game and it's just like, you see the name of some jungler that has just gotten the best of you so many times. And as soon as I load in, I'm so tense, because I'm thinking, all right, so last time he did, this on this side or whatever, but he's going to remember that I remember that he did this last time. And so he's going to do this one this time, and he picked like Kindred or something. He's going to like get red buff, level 2, jump over the back of the, dragon wall or whatever. He's going to do this to me. And then it's like, so it's just like, yeah, man, jungle is a really interesting one because there are so many ways that you can play out the early game. Lanes, there's not that many ways, Yeah, there's lots of lane tricks that you can do to become a better laner, but it's not as much of a mind game, as much of a,
Yeah, it's definitely not.
You have to account for so many more. Well, if they know that I know that they know type thing, and it's one of the cool things about jungling. It
is kind of cool, but I actually had a pretty in-depth argument, but it was me, Sneaky, Double Lift, and Pobelter talking about level 1s with jungle, and I'm on the side of, I think invades before you're even level 3 are pretty cringe for jungle, because think about it, if you want to play Vi, say you just think Vi is super cool, you just finished watching Arcane, she's a badass, bruiser punching lady, but hey, what if you pick Vi and then they pick Graves and you can't fight level 1 and he just walks in your jungle no matter where you are, and good luck? Or what if you want to play Zac but your mid laner wants to play Kassadin and now all of a sudden no one can help you and you're getting invaded all game?
Yeah.
Isn't that just part of the game though? It's a team game.
It's infuriating.
It is, but I think there should be limits to how much it can get warped immediately before you even have all of your abilities. Because we saw in the game where Blabber played against Griffin, and that's a pro game. I think it's a little bit different in pro when you have a coordinated team, you can get everyone's words, but even in challenger level games, I'm begging my mid laner to ward their Raptors. I can ward one side, but you can't ward for every cheese, Are they going to level 1 invade me, so I have to ward my side? Or are they going to 3 camp, invade my other side, and I don't have wards for everything? So I just think it's not that interesting for jungle because it can have such a game warping impact on the entire game. You can just outright lose immediately because,
There's risk to doing these cheeses too, though, right? Like, I feel like you're kind of talking about it from the POV of like always the person getting invaded is at the disadvantage, but I feel like it's like you can go for an invade and it can be warded, and then the mid laner collapses on you and you just die, and then your game's cooked, It's like it can kind of go both ways, right? And I feel like I definitely get that it's really frustrating, but it's kind of like when you give the like, oh, I just want to play Zac, but my guy's playing Kassadin. It's kind of like the same for everything in League, where it's like, all right, I load into the game, I just want to play Nasus, or I just want to play Kale or whatever. But like if you blind it, you're probably playing against some Ignite top laner that's going to just destroy you, right? It's kind of just League.
It is. I think it's not as big in lanes as it is in jungle, though, because you can genuinely just not be able to play. And then that...
You don't think that like counter matchups and stuff like that are more
Okay,
impactful?
if you're blinding Nasus, you are a masochist.
Top lane is with us as junglers.
Yeah, but I'm just
The
saying
top lane ones
that's
are
like, isn't that
extreme,
kind of like what you're talking about? It's like,
Yeah.
I can't play Vi because this guy might cheese me.
I think it's still different, though, in lane.
I can't play Nasus because this guy's going to cheese me. It's the
You
same
can
thing.
at least lane and get XP. I think it's a little bit different than getting
Can you
killed.
blind pick Nasus?
Probably. I assume no one would do it if it was that bad.
Yeah.
I think it's different because you're kind of taking the stance that Doubleth and Pobelter had when I was debating with them. And I basically just told them, yo, queue up some Vi games. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Because it's not only you can't play, but then your laners, they're still going to need your help. They're still going to be spamming their lanes, blaming you, saying jungle gap. I'm sitting there saying, I'm completely homeless. What do you want me to do?
I guess I just see that as I just don't think that's different at all than blind picking something that is omega counterable in lane and then whining that your jungler isn't helping you or something. You know what I mean? It's like if you're playing something that has that weak of an early game that your game is literally ruined if they walk into your jungle at level 1, then like, that's
I think you just shouldn't pick it, which then it's sad because I don't think that's a meaningful weakness for a champion to have.
I mean that's just how laning is too. Like I'm a Phil gamer, right? But like top lane is just not fun to play because you can't play what you want to play unless you're counterpicking, right? Like I feel like that's just kind of part of League. And it's the same thing. It's like if I'm like, Vayne will be really fun this game, and I just like lock Vayne and then playing against, I don't know, like Draven Renata or something like that with my, it's like it happens, I feel like, across everything in League. I feel like if you just want to play what you're gonna play, then you're gonna get blasted by counterpicks.
I haven't played. Well, I was a Vi main in like season 6. I completely changed, and I went to the dark side, I guess, Meteos. Because I felt that pressure before, and then I was just like, well, all right, well, I'm just gonna start doing it. And like my first like big volley bear run, one of my most played early games was literally just start my Raptors and going straight to their blue, and either stealing killing them on Gromp, or stealing it and forcing them out of their jungle and just like abusing early game. And then like as soon as I got a taste of that, well, I was like, I guess I'm one of them now.
You can do that. And I invade some games. I don't never do it, but I still stand by the fact that I don't think it's great. My proposed solution was, what if you just start the game with all the Phaelites on for the first 2 minutes?
I don't know. So yeah, as someone who's liked a lot of the early game cheeses and got a taste of them, I'm okay with it.
It's already way harder to do like a lot of the cheesy stuff now.
I think making the game start faster was definitely a good change, because now all the level 1 invades were like, all right, let's all group up as 5 and like roll these dice, right? Just like go through and like see if they have a lazy person or like there's an AFK, especially in solo queue. If someone was late or something, then I'm glad they took that out. But
though, I think those are actually debatably stronger now, those early invades, because before there's the risk. Say you're stronger top side, right? You have insane mid-top jungle. Right now, with the faster start time, you can just walk into their top jungle and start there and almost no counterplay. Before, there was the risk that their bottom lane's camping, right? Because they had time to get back to lane. And now if you chunk somebody level 1, they can't recall. They're just starting the lane down flash, down all of their health, their potions, and that I think feels worse.
So let me get a clear idea.
XP, though.
Let me get a clear idea of what you're saying, though, because you're not saying still go with 5, right? Because
no, not 5.
Then the other people can't.
3-man invade top side and just walk straight.
Okay,
in.
so top mid and jungle just go through top side.
Right. If you have stronger top mid jungle, I think you can just walk into their top side and start there, and cheers to whoever the top laner is.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, I guess it all depends on the team comp. If you want to split the map, if your lanes are going to be able to like cover your other side also. But that's a good one. Maybe I'll start talking some more with the in Champ Select with the solo queue squad. See see some.
Sounds really fun for everyone.
Yeah. Honestly, though, like there are some of these games where Blabber did it to Griffin. I mean, we kind of declared these games super early on too, and so it's a feeling where everybody in the game knows that there's this huge like mountain to overcome now, and those do feel bad to play out when there is such an early mountain and everybody knows it. So yeah, maybe that is something to consider.
It's true. There's always that balancing act though with League, right? Where it's like you don't want games to feel super over early, right? But also if there's like if it's never over early, then you should never play early game champs, and you know what I mean? Then it just becomes like, and I feel like if anything, this season is too much in the like
a lot of comeback mechanics.
It's never over early.
There's a lot of comeback mechanics.
Like if I'm saying like, it's always over early, it's never over early. We're more on this side, right? Where it's, and I think a lot of people already feel that frustration, and it's different because it feels really bad. It's like I see my jungler get invaded and die level 1, and I'm like, okay, it's one of those games. You know what I mean? Like you already know you're not getting any help. Like their jungler is going to be really strong. Like it feels bad. But also it feels bad when you're like building a lead, and then one person dies at a bad time, and then they get Baron and objective bounty and a 1K shutdown, and you're like, well, they just got 5,000 gold, and wait, are we losing now?
Yeah, I'm usually on that side, and the frustration of 20 minutes of good early game work gets wiped away by somebody else's mistake. Things most.
When you mentioned that, it reminded me of a game I had recently where we had a 10K gold swing in 5 minutes. We were up 5K gold, and then we were down 5K gold in the span of 5 minutes. It was the craziest throw I've seen in a while.
My thing is, too, I liked when Baron and Elder were worth more, and it was like, late game we're actually ending the game. I don't know. It felt right to me that late game, like Baron and Elder fights, when you win these, and you're like, all right, our chances just skyrocketed. So that's one. As soon as they announced it for this new season, I was kind of like, I guess we'll see how this goes when they nerfed both Baron and Elder Dragon rewards.
I like the Baron nerfs.
You do?
I actually do, because since pretty much the beginning of time, Baron has always kind of felt like this death sentence, nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I like that.
Nail that thing. I'm playing Volibear. I'm playing Volibear. It's 20 minutes. We need to get to the next game.
Yeah.
He actually.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. With the new builds, he actually starts scaling fine and everything. But
it's still really strong, obviously. But I do like how it doesn't feel as though the game is just over. And there are times where you can just accept giving Baron and not throw your lives away. Because I think even pre-nerf Baron, it was strong, but it would always be stronger by that pressure to contest it, because I think a lot of the time if you gave Baron and you just decided, okay, give Baron, push out all the waves, take their camps, set up so that they can't do a whole lot with Baron, it wasn't great, but it was better than, hey, they're taking Baron, let's all run at them and die. So we give them an ace and a Baron, and then we FF.
Yeah, let's go to the next game, man. How long you want to play these games for? We're going back and forth for 50 minutes now. No, I just I know that I am always on the side of a little bit quicker games. So I was kind of happy when some people were thinking that games were going to be quicker.
Well, I know
not so much.
I've mentioned that before, but it's like the like whole design principle is that, like, my general understanding is that their design philosophy is that the result of the game should always be in question until it is not, and then the game should end very, very fast, right? And that to me has always been the goal of Baron and Elder and stuff, is that it's like you get that the game's supposed to end kind of thing. Otherwise, like, what is the tool really that you're supposed to end the game with?
And
right? So,
and everybody's like adrenaline kind of spikes. Late game fights and stuff are always super intense. Base races and stuff. But
I think that's the idea of the siege changes this season, which I'm a huge fan of. I think that's, to me, the best thing they did, adding the plates on all the turrets, adding the crystals that you can break to do more damage. I think that's super fun because, like you said, it is really good when a game, you can decisively end it. It sucks when, hey, we're up 10k gold. They will never outscale us. They can't fight us, but this Ziggs is clearing every wave, and I'm so bored.
That's like old school League with like Ziggs and Nivea.
Yeah.
And
And
Greg
that,
and
I
all
think,
stuff
is
was like,
that is super lame. That is super lame. I don't think anybody likes that. And in those cases, you did need Baron in the game, and so it was good for that. But I think that if there's other ways to end the game that aren't just Baron, then it opens up more things, because I think sieging is super fun as a idea, right? You want to commit, hey, we're just going to 5-man and run you down. We're just going to walk with our wave and end the game. And then the other team has a decision. Do they say, okay, we're going to try to clear, we're going to maybe let them dive us and push out the other waves and potentially get resource advantage, but we run the risk of, we just lost the game immediately. So I think that's really cool, and it's definitely more in that direction. I don't know if it's completely perfect. I think it still can feel kind of hard against wave clear champs, but with the faster waves, it definitely feels a lot more viable than before, which I like.
Yeah, I've definitely been having fun this season.
Yeah, it's been really good. Also, want to remind everyone, this is going to be a 3-day week coming up. We are going to
Super week.
Super week, not just regular week. It's going to be
Super
super.
duper.
It's going to be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We are back in the Riot Games Arena, so tickets are on sale. So grab your tickets, come out, support the game, support the teams. It should be a lot of fun. Support us. Yeah, Kobe will be there.
Let's see some signs.
Maybe you could get a high five from Kobe.
Maybe.
If you walk by and you go like this, there's a good chance.
Fist bump.
You could just bump the hand.
It is. I honestly, I liked it. There's a couple aspects of us, when we were in like that super tall like perch thing, but now we're in.
You like looking down on everybody.
We're in. Well, no, one of my favorite gifts was when we did the summer
the beach ball,
and everyone is throwing the beach volleyballs up at me, and I got to combat the entire audience with my inflatable palm tree. That was one of my.
Thanks for reminding me. I missed out on that day.
Yeah,
that was like one of the only days I haven't been on an LCS in like 8 years. I don't even know why, but I just wasn't on that day. And then then you guys all had fun.
That's why
I was the Squidward meme, looking out, seeing SpongeBob and Patrick running around.
That's the real reason why it's one of my favorite memories.
Okay, buddy. Wow. Let's calm it down.
Holy moly! I'm just now connecting the dots.
Okay. You know what? I hope early game champs get deleted. I hope all of our gets nerfed next patch. I'm a messaging freak. Yeah, we'll see.
No, there's good news for you. Graves is getting buffed next patch. Everyone misses him.
Yeah, wait until we get to the patch notes, buddy. I'm already getting I'm getting kicked where the sun don't shine.
Well, the new patch is coming out. We see Froxon put it on his Twitter. It's 26.04. A lot of changes coming in. Most of them relatively small, but they are, there's a lot. What was kind of standing out to you? I know you guys were talking a lot about jungle changes before the show started and mentioning Graves.
Yeah, so I know who I'm banning every game. I still ban him a lot because Rek'Sai's worst matchup. And he's getting a really big buff, what I think. At least looks like a really big buff. Basically, every stack of his E is giving him more armor and MR. And something that isn't super obvious, but the jungle pet scales with your bonus armor and MR. So it's actually going to help his clear speed. So for Graves, he wants to just clear a lot, stack up that passive. He really likes doing plays where he just hits the objective, hits dragon, stacks up his passive a lot. So he's going to be stronger there. And I'm not sure. Lately, he seems to do more of a lethality build, kind of collector, Lord Dom, i.e., lethality crit. Maybe he'll try more cleaver, bruisery builds with this. We'll have to see, but I won't see because I'll have him on my ban list every game.
Yeah, I won't see it. Not a problem for Meteos. Another thing worth noting is that the armor that they're adding to it is a flat 3, so it's very impactful early on. Straight from level 1.
They're almost doubling how much armor he gets from his E.
Exactly.
Pretty crazy.
It was 4, and now it's going to be 7 straight level 1. And then it's like, it's flat 3 all the way through. But so it's going to be very impactful early game. As far as us and our conversation we're having about talking about invades early and stuff, usually Graves is looking for like camp advantages. and any sort of opportunity early game to like steal your Raptors or something like that is definitely something that Graves will go for, and look for farm advantages off laners and stuff like that. So that's on the list. Could be annoying, but I'm going down the list here. Part of the reason I started like twitching when I was reading this is because there's stuff like Teemo jungle is getting a buff. Who asked for that besides Broxa? I mean,
Brox's viewers.
Streamers, yeah.
I think Manko likes it.
Viewers, yeah. I mean, is that like streamer privilege or something? How do you get on the list? How do I get Volibear back on there?
It is a little surprising because I think Teemo jungle is actually pretty solid already.
Yeah.
I don't play it personally, but when you think about what Teemo wants to do, his play pattern really would want to be in the jungle more than top lane, right? If you're playing against Teemo, it's so annoying. Just every single choke you walk through, you just walk into a shroom. Okay, I will give this advice. If Teemo becomes more popular and you play against him a lot, be careful with corners, because that's where they always put their shrooms, the way you auto path through things. So instead of, if you're turning a corner, like go a little bit wider because there might be a shroom there. Also, sweeper's good. That the domination rune that gives you lower cooldown on your trinket and sweeper, very good against that champ. So look out for that. Also, the one that I kind of got my eye on is the Fizz jungle buffs, because I was trying him a little bit when he got buffed last time, and after my first couple games, I was thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be broken, because theoretically, if Fizz is a good jungler, he has a crazy toolkit for it.
Terror, yeah.
Yeah, he has so much mobility. He's very hard to punish. It reminds me of Nefiri jungle when she was initially getting played, and it was super strong. Because, can't really catch him due to his E. His ult is great playmaking. So I tried it. First couple games went really well. And then afterwards, it started not going well. And I looked at the win rate, and he had 42% win rate. So I don't know. But more bonus damage, he'll clear really fast. So I'll try it out again.
Yeah, they do this with a lot of champions that will be problematic if they get super clears and are very good in the
Darius
jungle.
And Brand.
Oh, I don't know. When we did it with Kiana and Silas and all these ones that they then had to go nerf after they created this problem. It's like they're always like poking these ones that are like, oh, this is gonna be a terror. I mean, Talon is still like terror.
Oh, don't get me started.
So like they end up having to then go back and nerf some of them, but then every once in a while we get a patch like this where they're like, all right, are any of these going to be a problem? Let's see. And they buff up their jungle clears again. Darius was a problem last time they did this. This is not as extreme as the one they did last time, but Darius was a big solo queue problem, and they had to nerf it because everyone was walking around with just get a bunch of move speed on Darius, and he was power clearing and just running around, into people's faces, stat checking them with a bunch of move speed. And so that he's back on the list after they had buffed him up previously and then had to re-nerf him. One that I was actually excited for, which admittedly is a problem champ. And yeah, it's kind of me going to the dark side. Camille jungle.
I was going to say that one.
Because this is not a monster mod nerf, but getting the attack speed just by going off a wall and not having to hit a champion is a jungle buff, baby. Yep. And that is one of my favorite cheese champs of all time. So I'm definitely going to, try that one as well. So, what?
That was
sometimes
there's so many jungle changes in this one. Because you're talking, there's the Darius one, there's Brand, there's Maokai, there's the Teemo one, there's the Camille thing that's gonna help. Like a lot of these are all kind of like jungle focused. The Udyr changes as well.
They come in packs.
I will say one thing that like I would be okay with is getting some more AP junglers in pro, because right now it's just like you just go down the tier list from game 1 to 5 and get every AD jungler. Like there's almost no AP junglers that are really being popular in pro right now, and it's like people don't bother banning them. They're rarely picked. I know they are sometimes, but I was kind of thinking honestly when like Dusk and Dawn was like seeming super OP and like people were playing like Diana jungle and this kind of stuff that we might have seen a little bit of it, but everyone is basically just playing control mages mid and AD junglers, and like that is basically it. So like there's obviously 2 levers there, right? You can make non-control mages stronger in mid lane and to like encourage AP pairings that way, or you can make AP junglers stronger, which encourages AD pairings in mid lane. But I would be happier if we had more variety of that in pro right now, because it's just like it's not Champ Select is super boring for mid lane and jungle, I think currently.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do like your point that it often goes hand in hand with when AP junglers are good, the AD mids get played more. And I do think right now it's kind of both. I would actually put it more on there's not a whole lot of AD mids that you can play at the moment to enable these AP.
ADCs suck mid now.
Yeah, because we saw even in the series this past weekend, a Tristana mid came out. And I feel like really one of the only good AD mids in pro play is Yone.
Yeah.
And I think Yone is kind of crazy. The last buffs he got, even though on paper it didn't seem that big, I think it was, maybe 100% ratio to 105 on his Q or something like that. I don't know. When I see this champion in solo queue, he does so much damage. He's just killing people in his E without his R or anything like that. So in my experience, Yone seems really strong right now. And so the Maokai buff, that's definitely a combo people love, Maokai with Yone, because obviously Yone likes having someone to engage for him. If he goes first, he kind of has a terrible time. And Maokai ults them. The counterplay to Maokai ult is you all line up behind one of the roots, so somebody tanks it, but then, there's Yone, their whole team's lined up, so that's always a fun combo. So I definitely expect to see that.
What's really funny too is the way they're buffing Maokai is just, again, his Q monster mod, which is already massive, and he has one of the best ability plus smite combo steals as a tank. I always find it funny that it's this same lever, instead of kind of spreading it around, it's just like you have this big old nuke with your giant AoE Q to lay down the hammer.
What just looking at in pro play picks, it's actually kind of crazy. The top 10 are all AP in mid lane. Then there's Yone, and then you have to go down 13 more picks before you see another AD champion. 6 picks on Yasuo. It's
wow.
So the 23 of the top 24 most picked mid laners in pro play, AP.
Yeah, and it's
I feel like they went too far in that. I don't know.
It is. But then on the flip side, when you look at solo queue, a lot of the top win rate mids are these assassins, and
I guess wave clear is just too important in pro play, maybe.
Yeah, I don't totally have the answer. There's a lot of factors. I think in pro play, you generally want teleport, whereas in solo queue, you can run ignite. Also, it's just a lot easier to get random kills.
Even some of the mid laners that are really popular just run Ghost, right? Like Ryze is often Ghost, TLAW is often Ghost.
Yeah, that's true. Stuff. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think a lot of it is there's less of the random kills.
Yeah, definitely.
So the safe, like you're saying, wave clear and farming.
But wouldn't that apply also to like Akali and stuff? That's kind of like that's
no, because Akali doesn't operate with the same restrictions as other assassins.
Yeah, it's true. Akali's too cheap.
You know she's the exception.
I know, but I hate that, right? Like, because it should you would think it should be the same thing where it's like, Akali shouldn't work in pro play either then because you don't get random kills. It sucks that like Zed and Talon and all that stuff you never see mid lane like pretty much ever. It's just like there's no AD mids. So to me, that has just made Champion Select feel so stale because it's like you're just going down the tier list. Every single game is just tier listed, I feel like, in mid lane and jungle, basically. It's like you're going through your top couple junglers. Mid lane is always going to be like Ryze, Ori, Taliyah, Azir, and then you get to like kind of like the B tier AP mids, but you're basically just tier listing it every single game in Champ Select. And jungle, I feel like jungle operates pretty similarly as well in pro play, where it's like, all right, you have your Wukong, your Xin, your Jarvan, your Vi, your Pantheon, and then you kind of like, those are banned or all been picked, so like now I guess I gotta play Nocturne or like Ambessa or Trundle or something like this. You know what I mean? You're kind of like going down the tier list, which I feel like, limits those roles a lot, but also just kind of like makes it so everything else is more static around it too.
Yeah, they're clearly not trying to change pro meta with this patch.
Yeah, which I'm just saying sad about.
Yeah, I just think that that doesn't seem to be one of their goals with this patch. There's a couple that found their way in there that are like overlap with solo queue, like Rumble, and stuff is a high prio pick. But yeah,
it's interesting.
They're not going to change the core.
Yeah, it's interesting with Rumble that he's getting nerfed because he stands out as maybe the most overrated champion right now in the pro meta, because so many times we see teams early pick Rumble, not usually in game 1, but maybe game 2, game 3 in a series. They early pick Rumble, but then they just don't build a Rumble comp, and the other team picks champions that are good against Rumble. In my mind, he's someone that you'd want to pick late into the draft. You see that they have a mobile mid, a mobile ADC, you can get Jarvan. And in that case, Rumble's pretty good because you can lock them down and have them sit in an equalizer. But a lot of times they pick him early. You couple him with a no CC jungler, a no CC mid, a ranged support, and then all of a sudden your equalizer just does nothing, and you get outscaled and picked off in the side lane repeatedly. So I'm kind of surprised he's getting nerfed. He does have a high presence in pro, but I don't think his win rate is particularly good.
I couldn't help but smile when you said.
Actually, maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe his win rate's not bad, but I don't know. I see a lot of games where he gets overpriored.
I couldn't help but smile when you said, and then the Rumble ult does nothing because we've got a little Easter egg for later in the show where a certain Rumble ult does nothing because of a certain teammate.
Rumble has 53% win rate in pro as second most picked top laner, so pretty good to be honest.
Oh yeah.
The most picked top laner
stuff up.
is most picked top laner is Cassante, 44% win rate, and then Sion next 49. The only thing that's like higher in the top, 5-6 picks is Embes has 56% win rate.
But they are going after AD carry role a decent amount in this patch. Aphelios is on there, Jinx is on there, type things for solo queue. Like Twitch and Jinx have been very good in solo queue recently. Aphelios has even been looking really good in pro. We had some monster games. Aphelios Lulu or Aphelios Thresh combinations, which have been kind of fun to see him back because, at least it requires protection for him. He doesn't have a bunch of dashes and stuff, so kind of interesting. And then the Kennen one, of course, too. Like the ultimate is getting like your ultimate cooldown is
crazy nerf.
Yeah, for late game, it is huge. Going from 80 up to 120.
Yeah, I don't know the last time I've seen a nerf to an alt cooldown that much.
Especially for a character who like your whole champion is one button. It's R.
Yeah. Increasing the cooldown late game by 50% is insane.
It is insane.
It is super tough because I think right now he's very tied to Ultimate Hunter as the rune, right? Because most Kennens have been doing the electrocute setup where you go you run Ignite, you have a Doran Blade, and he's pretty oppressive in lane. He's kind of a ridiculous laner. And then, as you get to late game, your ult just has no cooldown. You're just spamming every single fight. But if I was a Kennen player and I saw this nerf, I'd be super sad. That's going to be rough for him because I don't think he builds a whole lot of haste in his normal build. He usually goes Gunblade, Shadow Flame, and then more AP stuff. So he's really just going to be relying on the ulti hunter to get that down from 2 minutes. So that is going to feel bad.
This almost feels to me like it's like a precursor to like a mini like reshaping or rework, where it's like if you're going to take that much off of the ultimate, I feel like they're going to try to put more power into the basic abilities. That would be my guess, because that nerf on the ultimate just seems way too insane for a champion that is entirely based late game around finding a good ultimate.
And it could also be them saying, all right, if you want to do the new Gunblade, then you're going to have to pay a bigger cost. Because they're like, well, if you go, the proto belt, the old like proto belt start and try and get like, are they trying to force people to build more haste and ultimate haste? Because that can be a way of like reshaping it where it just makes you reallocate your resources as a change in power, because now you're going to have to spend more gold in a different place. But
time for some support Kennen. Bring back the Callista Kennen so we can go Zeke's. So we can get some CDR.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't mind Kennen having to build a little bit more CDR, because I don't know how much you guys have played against Kennen when they get going and they have the Shadow Flame and stuff, but he'll kill you in under a second with his ultimate from full. It is shocking. Okay, that's a bad pun and unintended, but it is actually really shocking how fast he kills you. I couldn't think of a better word.
Yeah.
I tried. But it's crazy. So he'll still have the damage, just not as often. So still not going to feel great. But I think that's touched on most of the changes. Zach's getting nerfed, which I never like to see. He's been my mid laner. When I'm filled mid, I just pick Zach. It's pretty cheesy, but it's a good time.
I would say, as much as I got your back, Zach has been good in like 4 roles for quite a while. So it might be deserved.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting to see how much of a difference this makes. I don't feel like it's gonna push the needle too much. I just, out of curiosity, was counting for jungle 2, where you had to go down to find the first AP champ. I'm not counting Malphite because Malphite builds tank, right? I'm not saying that. Okay.
He's split damage.
He is AP.
So you can.
He actually does a lot.
There's
of
a lot of rocket
I
Malphites.
know he does. I know he does magic damage.
Well, there's also a lot of rocket Malphites in solo, queue that
for
will
sure.
build AP.
All right. Well, I'm just talking about pro play.
Yeah.
He's the only AP champion in top 20 in pro play. You have to go down further to.
He's mixed. His W's fizz.
Yeah.
True.
Well, and I mean, it's just like when I say like AP, I'm thinking someone like who's building like building a lot of AP. Obviously, there are champions that deal mixed damage and magic damage and stuff that are in there.
I mean, yeah.
Wait, so
mid and
who
jungle
was
are
it?
always tied. With their
What was the
typings.
champion?
That was full AP.
Yeah.
There was like Diana
okay.
as a few picks, but it's outside of the top 20. It was like, I don't know, 23rd or 24th or something like that. But basically, yeah, there's 0 AD mids except for Yone, and there's 0 AP junglers in pro play. So yeah, it's just that's something I would like to see change because I've just been noticing that more and more as we're going further in the season. I'm like, yeah, it's just every game is just tier list. You just go down and it makes drafting pretty boring, I think.
Yeah,
that's pretty fair.
Mid and jungle are always kind of tied together in that aspect too.
Yep. Make jungle great again. Bring back some APs. Where's my fiddlesticks? You know?
It is tough in a way because of how drafting works, because you're always going to have to blind pick something, right? And top lane, you generally don't want to blind unless it's Renekton or a tank, but eventually run out of those. And then bot lane matchups could be pretty sharp. So a lot of times it does end up being the jungle that's blinded, and then mages are kind of stable. So it makes sense, but I totally agree with you. It would be sick if we could see some assassins in pro play.
Yeah.
Imagine pro play if the meta is Zed versus Kiana, Talon, whatever. Basically just taking solo queue and putting it in pro play. That'd be fun because honestly, there were times, it's super long ago at this point, but season 4, Samsung White's world skin was actually Talon, which is kind of crazy to think that Talon mid was being played in pro, but it's happened before. Maybe it could happen again.
I even liked the Akali Silas meta that we had, and that wasn't even
Me too.
That wasn't that long ago.
That was like G2 era.
Yeah,
and they had Pike solo lane.
And it was a little taste there. So maybe we could get Zeka on the balance team next.
There you go. Yeah. No, I just think it's fun. Like, and I don't care that it's every game or anything. I just want, like, come on, there's got to be something in the top 20 that's an AD mid laner outside of Yone. Like, let's be real. Something is wrong, I feel like, if you can't have like any champions being picked even 5% of the time, right? It's just like, I don't know. I just think that would be cool to see. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to talk about this Super Week that's coming up. It's going to be super Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We are back in the Riot Games Arena. Get your tickets now, and we'll see you there.
Dude, this lobby is kind of comfy. It feels different.
If this is different, I like different. I'm staying right here.
Are you guys serious? We're about to get into game.
Emily, let us enjoy it!
You guys need to lock in. Maybe this'll help.
Oh no, not already.
Welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia. Let's talk about the games coming up on Friday. Yes, I said Friday. It is going to be Team Liquid Alienware playing up against DSG. This is a lower bracket match, so pretty scary for DSG, but also for TL. I mean, I think people are still talking. Every pro I've talked to is still telling me, yeah, like TL and Lyon, they still think they're top teams based off scrims. So like that, obviously, is one factor. But DSG on stage has looked pretty good. So it's going to be kind of, I don't know. It's a lot of pressure on both teams, I feel like.
Definitely. And at some point, if you're Liquid, don't you just want to stop the we're doing really well in scrims narrative? Because that has followed them around for so long. And I don't know if there's ever been a time where that has helped a team. I think that is almost a curse. Definitely a curse, I'll say. Because no one is sitting there saying, T1's won Worlds 3 times in a row, but the Scrim God team, right? I don't want to play against T1 in scrims. I want to play against Liquid in scrims. So just being a successful scrim team doesn't actually seem very good unless you're also successful on stage. So I feel like I would want to downplay that if I was someone in that situation. But obviously Liquid should be super hungry coming into this, since a lot of people in this room put them number 1 on their preseason power ranking, and now they barely made it into playoffs. So
that's their real motivating factor, is that they're like, we got to do it for Kobe and Azale. People will flame them for their dive power.
These
rankings.
guys look like idiots. We got to do something. Team Liquid, come on.
No, I mean it's funny. Like I hear what you're saying about the scrims, but also when they were owning, like when they were considered best team in the West and like doing well against some of the Eastern teams, having some competitive series and stuff, they were also doing really well in scrims. And one thing I will say is a benefit to having that reputation is that you can get scrims with the top Eastern teams.
that's a good point.
So I think that, like, at least as far as you have to get to international to be able to scrim them, but if you have that reputation, then you can scrim against the Gen Gs and the the T1s and get practice against those teams, which can be beneficial. But yeah, I mean, TL at this point, I don't feel like TL is even the ones peddling the scrim rumors. It's just when I talk to other people and I ask about like, oh, like what are your power rankings, or what is this, or like who are you really scared of? Every pro team is still saying, yeah, like TL and Lyon are still really scary. And when I talked to Sven on pros, I mentioned this last week, and I was like, oh, if you could have picked the lower bracket teams, would you? No, they still think that they're the better teams, even though they are in the lower bracket, because when you're a pro player, 90+% of your practice is scrims, not stage games, right? So like if you play TL and they beat your butt every day, and you beat them one time on scrims, you're still going to think they're a good team, right? Like it's hard, I think, for teams to kind of get out of that mindset, but clearly they're struggling on stage.
And I don't think that TL have washed away many fears with the recent games that we've seen, because while they did win their little tiebreaker thing at the end with Dignitas, that was such a back and forth game. And that was the one that we were. Did we discuss this already when we were talking about the
Nico bait,
the Nico bait and stuff? And so you gotta wonder,
baited.
would Team Liquid have even won that game if FBI wasn't like, I'm gonna bait this Nico ult, and his teammates were like, yeah, I'm gonna bait it with you type thing. So like that was really close. And so what I guess I'm trying to gauge people's confidence level now.
Pretty low.
Yeah, because it isn't like, oh, we had these crazy scrim rumors, everybody's super high on them, and then like they started out kind of some rough stage games, but then they ironed out the issues or fixed everything. It doesn't seem like it is in changing.
Yeah, no, it hasn't yet. I wanted to mention, because good thing you brought up the FBI thing, because that was from a Cloud Sadecki interview, and I forgot to mention that last week. So I wanted to mention that now. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't feel like my confidence has increased in them at all. Like they haven't really shown us that much yet on stage. They looked really nervous in that game against Dig. Like you said, yeah, they won, but like they barely scraped by. And even with a really advantageous position, they then like had Quid get caught, and then they're opting into a 4v5, which was the exact same issue that they had like way back before against Cloud9. Like when I think back to week 1, where they opted into a 4v5 against Cloud9 when Quid wasn't even there, and like completely the game blew up and then just instantly ended. And so they seem to take these really weird fights where it is like, yeah, I don't know if it's just overconfidence where they just always are slamming everyone every day in scrims. So they're just like, yeah, like I win these all day, and then they just take them on stage and they doesn't work, or if it's just nerves or what is going on. But they clearly have not gotten it together yet. Does not mean that they can't. Obviously, like they have very, very strong individual players, but no, I mean it's kind of scary going into this. And DSG, I think at the same time, is probably going to be pretty frustrated that they lost their series, because like they came off of a 5-game banger against Sentinels, where had they won that, they're guaranteed to at least go to America's Cup, if not first stand. And now you're going into the bottom, and you're going to be playing against this team that is like known as like this real big threat. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think that puts a lot of pressure on DSG to try to like continue moving forward, but also TL. If you lose here to DSG, it's like that is rough, because their expectations, not even just for the players, but like org side, the expectations for TL are always really, really high, right? And changes get made on this roster and on this org like really fast if stuff doesn't go well.
Yeah, definitely. And I would still favor Liquid looking at it, because Well, I've been pretty impressed with DSG. I do think their series against Sentinel kind of left something to be desired from me, not just because they didn't win, but
It left a support to be desired.
Lions had a very rough series, absolutely. And I also think some of their drafts were a little bit sketchy to me. So even in, what was it, game 3, where they played their Ivern Nasus comp, when I was watching that game, I feel like they should have lost this game super early once they fell behind. And I think Hambach just kind of free threw this one back to them by getting caught repeatedly in extremely questionable ways. Because looking at that team comp, you have 0 magic damage threat on your team, and you're relying on Yone Nasus to win team fights against Kennen, Wukong, Victor, Yunari. Basically all of Sentinel's team comp is this explosive AoE team fight comp, and you're expecting Nasus and Yone to be able to operate. So I thought it was a legitimate miracle / criminal throw by Sentinels that DSG were actually able to pick up this win, because I think just stylistically, these two comps, I don't think DSG's comp should really ever win that game.
I mean, we saw a lot of like that example. I also feel like, to be fair, I think DSG just wasn't even that coordinated in a lot of the times when they were taking fights earlier. And Call Me had a horrendous Yone game. Like, Call Me basically did nothing the entire game until I think about the last 2 fights. Once he completed his IE, he had some contributions in the fights, but it wasn't just a Lions bad series. That game 3 specific, I think, was interesting because obviously Senna and Nasus like scale through infinity. The game went long, I think thanks to some mistakes maybe from Hambach getting caught and thanks to some mistakes on the other side. And then you do end up in this situation where we have this really late game fight, which ended up being kind of like a game deciding fight, where Castle has like 750 stacks or whatever on Nasus, and Senna has 100 and something stacks and whatever, and like they hit this point where the fight starts, so many tools were actually spent not on Castle, and then Castle can get in and like get a ton of damage out.
He's doing like 900 damage Qs for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And in all the previous fights where he would TP in, he'd TP in kind of and be like the fight would already be lost, and everyone would just like CC him and he would never move and then he would die, right? Which is kind of like, that's kind of how Nasus looks a lot of the time. But this one was a weird one for me, like in general for the DSG side, just because Lions had, I think, one of the worst support performances I've ever seen in the best of 5. Like, he was horrendous, and he's the only one who had playoff experience on their team going into it, right? So you would think, oh, he's going to be like the more stable guy. And I also feel like prior to this series, he had played pretty darn well for them. I thought he was like a really pleasant surprise. I thought he was actually doing quite well for the team. But the other 4 players had 0 playoff games in their career played. So you come in, Lions is having a horrible, horrible series. The Blitz game, he hit 2 hooks in lane. I legitimately could not remember another hook that he hit the whole rest of the game.
That was a rough Blitz game.
He was completely useless. The Bard game, he was actively griefing his team multiple times. Like, we
bring up the clip.
Bring up the clip. I mean, the Elder fight is the one that everyone remembers, where it's, okay, the game 5, it's coming down to the Elder fight. I think they were going to lose anyway, to be fair. But
it's a funny way to go out, though.
It's a horrible way to go out. Castle throws down Equalizer on their back line. Cry returns on Sejuani, throws out the Sejuani ult. And then in comes the Lions Bard ult and just immunes them both. And it's like, GG, I guess. Like, he had some really weird stuff, and then they had this this play on top lane as well, where Call Me was playing Tristana that game, and he was like knocking down the tower, and the tower had like, I don't know, 5% health or something, like a couple autos, right? And it looked like he just wanted to kill the tower and then try to pull off a dive, and Sentinels are responding, and Lion's just like ults the tower, and so he can't hit the tower, and so Call Me's just like kind of standing there like, do I leave? Like, do I stay? Like,
I thought Bard was in my team.
Yeah, like what's happening here? And then they had that play. There was also another river fight down on bot side river where he like misplaced the tunnel.
Oh yeah, the shortest tunnel ever.
It was like, it's like a 1-inch tunnel. So at first I thought it just expired, but then I realized it was just placed that badly. Like, such a push to just get in this tunnel that he thinks is going to save him, and you move 1 inch and then you die. It was crazy. Like, these games were horrible from Lions. But I also think Call Me had a good Akali game. His Yone game, he did absolutely nothing.
The Ari game, he did a lot of dying.
The Ari game,
he
was
got
sprinting
farmed.
it. He was absolutely sprinting it. The Tristana game, it wasn't great either. And I like it was interesting to me too because I was coming into this thinking all Darkwings can play is control mages. Like surely if it goes to game 4, game 5, he's going to be the one getting pinched. But in game 5, he blinds Hui, and we're picking Trist into it. I used to play a lot of Trist mid. I love that. That is not a good matchup at all. Every time you rocket jump, you just get feared for free. Like, and if you can't go aggressive into these control mages on Trist, you can't win. You just get poked down, right? Like, and generally you get outscaled. You know, maybe the thought process is like, oh, I just kind of like farm and push, and then maybe I can out team fight you later because like Trist can be a good team fighter. But I thought Call Me didn't have a great series. Kryra also. I mean, again, it's like. He played one series with them prior to this, and it's his first playoff game. So like these are more expected. But Kryra, I think, definitely had some pretty rough moments. I don't think he was like horrible by any means, but I did feel like Sajed and Castle were playing quite well in almost every game, and I felt like the other three at times were more up and down, and Lions was like only down.
Yeah, I was gonna defend Kryra a little bit by saying when he was on Sedge. I don't blame him for what happens. I blame whoever put him on Sejuani because I'm actually a fan of Sejuani. I thought she was fun to play in pro, but this champion is so bad. She is so trash. I don't know why you would pick her in a game you're trying to win.
And well, also with your solo laners that are a Rumble and a Trist, if you're going to pick it, and you're picking it with something that is like super quick auto attack reset or something, and you play the synergy, at least you can argue that then, right? At least you can say, well, you're using the synergy of the kit. But
and they had
this?
Their only melee on the team was Rumble, who doesn't even auto attack.
That's what I'm saying. There's no argument
range.
for the synergy.
Yeah, it was a really wild Sejuani angle. I'm not really sure what the rationale was.
So forgive him for the Sejuani, but what about some of these invades? He just is doing these invades every game. It was the same thing he did in the previous series where he was dying, but it was like you look at the Mundo game where he's just like kind of doing these like
the wolf invade.
He did this wolf invade, and he's died of that wolf invade like 3 times in like 5-6 games. Like he walks in and it feels like, I don't know if their thought process is we just need to play it better and like this should work. It's the correct play. We just aren't executing. Maybe that's the thought process. But you talk about like getting behind as a jungler and how difficult that can make it. Well, that has happened to them multiple times. And to my recollection, it happened to them twice in this series. It happened to them in the previous series as well, where they're going on these invades and it doesn't even feel like it's close to working.
Yeah, the first one in particular, he had no respect for who he. Okay, a lot of people understand who he is, a heavy roaming support and likes to go make these plays, and he goes for the invade after just pushing out the enemy jungler a little bit. Like he's not even that low; he just pushed him out of the jungle, and then who he stays on the top side, and they clap him super easily, and it just looks turbo int. But I guess for that one, at least you argue something about support tracking. But
yeah, so
still not.
But like, if I recall correctly,
they seeing like there's no vision, there's no anything. Like
so,
wasn't there a fight right before that where both supports were, and I think Lions left. If you go back a little bit, I'm pretty sure there was a fight before this that led him to thinking that this was an okay play. If he didn't stay, it actually would have been fine.
Highlights. I'll have to pull up the full.
Yeah, if you go back to the original thing, because that doesn't show the beginning. Yeah, because what you're talking about, there's a fight before, both supports are at it. He pushes the enemy jungler out. His support leaves.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, my support, or their support left also. But who he doesn't leave, he stays around.
They also did it in the Bard game though. They did the same thing in game 5 and just walked in and died too. And it was like that game they had support there first because they had the roam from Bard, which I guess was maybe their thought process was like, oh, like we're gonna have first move, so like this is gonna work out because of that. But both games, I think that was rough. I felt like he was pretty disjointed from the rest of the team in like a lot of different situations. So this is again, it's like I get it. It's his second ever pro series. It's his first ever playoff games. I'm not trying to flame him, but it was just. I don't think it's fair to say it's only on Lions because I was seeing a lot of that. I think Lions had a horrendous series. Like I said, I think it's one of the worst support series I've seen. But it's not just on him. I thought Call Me had some really horrible games, and I thought Kara had some pretty bad games too. This is the previous thing you were talking about, where they had both supports roamed and they were kind of fighting at Scuttle, and then he tried to invade after this.
Right. So I actually think this play from Cryer is pretty reasonable. You know, you push out the top side quite heavily. Impact can't fight. Vi is fully pushed out of the jungle. In this situation, I think they just saw Vi smite Crab as well. It does make sense to invade here. It's just Huhi still being in the bush and seeing him kind of ruins this.
Yeah, which is like, to be fair, he
was literally right there.
He was there, and you should be tracking support, which is why I was kind of like, I was kind of.
It does. Obviously, it's a mistake. I'm not defending the play. It does. I understand why Cryer did that. I don't think every Leoner would still be there. And, you know, he probably just, it's a small adjustment. I think just walk into the bush and see if Leona's there, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you also have to know like who you're playing against and give Huhi credit, because Huhi's been playing super well. Go ahead. Did you have?
Or you just tell Lions to stay with you, because Nami could just stay. He didn't need to recall.
At least until you check the surrounding area. I would say, as far as Call Me though, his first couple games of the series were good, and here's a bit of cope is that this series was a large underperformance from DSG with, I think, both Lions and Call Me, because I had been very positive on Call Me. He had a really
Kali game was really good. Did you think his Nivea game was good? I kind of thought that was.
I thought his Nivea was very useful. So there are a lot of fights where which is good. Yeah, which is good.
I was just laughing at the word.
It was very useful. There were so many times when he's zoning people out, he's pushing people off, and so it doesn't look like super Smurf, but it is very useful. And so I thought that was a pretty good game, and he's had multiple good Akali games. So the cope is that this was underperformance, and that DSG will look better than this series in the series versus Team Liquid.
Yeah, it's still definitely an uphill battle for them.
For sure.
Yep. I did want to mention from their series, though, I thought Darkwings had a pretty solid performance, and I really liked the Veigar that he pulled out. That seemed so strong. Granted, it kind of felt like Call Me hasn't played against this champion before, since on a lot of the plays, he was just getting, walked up and caged.
Yeah.
That thing does have deceptively big range, and it's kind of hard to know the timing of exactly when it becomes active, but obviously, if you're playing against it in a pro match, you should probably know those things. So
he was swift marching on him. His move speed diff.
Well, I mean, the first play, there's no boots involved, and he tries to use the REW.
Fast feet.
He tries to use the REW to get out of the cage, and immediately gets clapped. Anyways, definitely, it still was a 5-game series, but it came away with feeling less impressive than DSG has been so far this year, since they have been, surprisingly, overperforming people's expectations. And so I think that's why this one did feel a bit bad.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm just a little bit worried. I mean, it's a big question of how Lions is going to bounce back, because I think Lions is, like I said, previous to this, played pretty well for DSG. I still would have favored Core against him. I think Huhi was the biggest gap in the series. Like, support gap was crazy. I think Huhi had a really, really good series. We can focus on that more when we talk about the Sentinel series that's going to be played. But like Lions versus Core, I'm a bit worried for that. Even some of the decisions he made on this Bard game, where it was like, he was just constantly basing, and Huhi was doing this stuff that I thought was really, really smart, where you don't see a lot of people do it, where he was on Rakan, and he would go between the tier 1 and the tier 2 and stack the wave. So the wave was always pushing away from Sajed, and Lions was on a base timer for 95% of this game. So Sajed is just standing AFK at his tower. He can't even farm the wave or walk up. And it was like, it's not like he's missing CS, and it wasn't like he was chain dying, and he was down like 40 CS early because the wave is always pushed away from him. Like, they could never walk up with his support. So I felt like Huhi super, super gapped bot. And when you talk to pros, the bot lane 2v2 that people are most scared of generally is Core and Yon. And so I'm pretty concerned for how the laning could go for DSG there, and how Lions will kind of perform out of lane. I think, they're going to have like a strong series, like individually from all the DSG members to be able to compete with TL. That being said, TL, to me, their downfall has been more like less individual stuff and more like team play errors, right? Where it's like, they talked about this on the coaches episode of Pros, which you guys can go check out. Jat did with I Will Dominate and an Arrow and Golden Glue. And they kind of were like joking a bit about Quid, where Golden Blue's saying like the further he gets ahead.
It was ThinkCard, not an arrow.
Not an arrow.
That'd be too much Cloud9.
That'd be too much Cloud9. ThinkCard, of course. And Golden Glue was joking about how when Quid gets further ahead, like he always would get nervous because he's gonna like do like a monster throw, and Dominic was saying the same thing about Blabber. Like he gets weaker the stronger he gets. But I feel like that has been true with TL this year, where it's like the game can look really, really good for a long time, and then there's just like, what is happening here? And then they lose the game.
I couldn't get past the early slight flame that you had with because it was so funny, because I have an 80 carry friend that said almost the exact same thing one time about his support when you were like, Lions was on a base timer for 95% of the game. And you said it so casually as you're just moving through in this long like steamroll of an explanation. But I just got hung up on that so quick because my friend did the same flame like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something, where he was like, is my tab bugged? Like my support is 100% base timer. Like where is this guy? And but I thought it was so funny. You just casually flew that way. But like that is how it feels a lot of the time. You know, from the 80 carry perspective, because you're like, where is this guy? What is he doing? And you don't see anything positive popping up on your feed. There's no like, enemy has been slain with a assist from your support roaming with jungler or something.
Especially when their support is behind your tower, freezing the wave on you for like the fifth time.
Is my tab bugged? Like, I don't know. That was so funny because my friend literally said the same thing.
Yeah, not where you want to be as the AD carry.
Yeah, because he ended up with a crazy CS difference really early on. He was down
like 40 early.
And there wasn't a bunch that he could do about it. But again, I basically this whole series, I was like, oh my God, Huhi is smurfing. We got to give like player of the series to Huhi.
Yeah.
And like trying to find ways to put Huhi highlights in there, because not only was he doing those smart things, the overstay on top side, pulling the wave, but he was also hitting like 4-person Nico ults over and over, and multiple person engages and doing really intelligent like flanks and stuff. So
he was owning.
Yeah, he was looking quite good.
I feel like, I have this feeling that, the wheels are going to kind of like fall off a bit for some of our kind of like Cinderella stories, and that Lyon and TL will have fixed some issues and be really strong in the lower brackets. Like that's kind of like what I'm feeling. I'm hoping that it's not just completely true and that everything doesn't just go straight back to expectation, because it's been really fun seeing Fly and DSG kind of like be a surprise, and that's made the match a lot more unpredictable. So I'm hoping this is going to be a really fun series, hoping it's going to be competitive, but my gut feeling is, after seeing some of the individual underperformances from the DSG members, that if they have that kind of series, the individual talent on TL would just make it that like the game is omega over super early. And so that is my big concern, and that is kind of why I'm favoring TL right now, is I just think if you give that level of performance, I just think you're down 10K and the game's cooked.
Yeah, I think that they should be able to smash, in particular, early game, because I think they have lane advantages. Maybe not top lane, but I think all lanes, even top lane also. I mean, Castle I have a lot of respect for, and I think he's been consistent as well.
Good.
But honestly, I think they're going to have lane advantages every lane, and Jose has been playing very aggressively with winning lanes, and I thought, especially at the beginning, quite effectively. So I foresee there being a lot of like crushing early games, whether or not DSG can hold out and like weather the storm, and then maybe they draft some good like scaling and team fighting and stuff. Maybe there's some good angles there, because that's how they have gotten some of their good wins, is looking for mid and late game, play as a team, 5-person, like working on synergy and trying to go for some team fights there. But yeah, I think pretty much everybody will probably still give advantage to TL, especially for some early game.
Yeah, DSG, what would need to happen for them to win would just be some good drafts, and I think play into their team play, because I do think their teamwork is likely better than TL's from what we've seen so far. Obviously, individually, they'll probably fall behind, but I think they've had pretty good cohesion and coordination. And then on the flip side, maybe if the game starts going bad for TL, they get a little bit desperate, a little bit frantic, and perhaps they tilt, but I don't think that's super likely. I think I would predict probably TL 3-0.
Okay, so you were talking about the Cinderella stories. The next one is another possible ending for a Cinderella story where it has been really fun following the FlyQuest Cinderella story where they just skyrocketed to the top. All the young, stars having some fun. Like Griffin has just been amazing in all the interviews, and their gameplay in all of the series where they didn't play Cloud9 was
really good,
very exciting, and very effective. When the ones where they did play Cloud9, which was 2 series in a row,
series,
back to back, it was less effective, very much less effective. And we talked a lot about Blabber and how good Cloud9 are right now.
Are they playing Cloud9?
They're not playing Cloud9 now. So the question will be, is the same going to be true here for Lyon? Because Lyon is very similar to all the things we're listing about Team Liquid. High expectations, lots of money spent, very good individual players. That is all true of the Lyon roster. This is another, you would label it a super team, just off paper and just off, putting this squad together. Is this team going to be able to end the FlyQuest kind of fairy tale where the young players have had more early success than people thought they were going to have? They have just received back-to-back lessons. You could look at it at the hands of Cloud9.
Yeah.
I think
harsh lessons.
I mentioned this in the second series, but I was like, I feel like we're getting a seat in the classroom where they're teaching a lot of the FlyQuest younger players, especially Blabber, kind of teaching Griffin some things. So how quickly can they pick it up? How quickly can they learn? How quickly can they improve from the losses that they received at the hands of Cloud9? ThinkGuard, who was on the Pros episode, was talking about how, I think it was actually good, to get these games versus Cloud9. They're the definitive best team, and I think we learned a lot from them. So now we get to put to the test, how good is your week of practice after receiving the lessons, I guess. Yeah. And can you put it into effect versus inspired?
It's interesting because you talk about the lessons, and I almost thought you were going to go the other direction, where I was looking at it from the point of view of it's not just FlyQuest that's getting this lesson. Lyon can watch and see the C9 game plan that worked really effectively in 5 out of 6 of the games that they played against them were stomps, right? All 3 games in this last weekend, 3-0, were stomps, and 2 out of the 3 in the best 3 were giga stomps. And so it's like, if I'm Lyon, I'm sitting there and I'm watching this series and I'm saying, how can we replicate this, right? And then that becomes kind of the question of, can you replicate C9's game plan and kind of put that into effect? A lot of it was about abusing Griffin on Pros. They talked about, we wanted to prioritize Ambessa early because, Griffin's crazy on Ambessa. You can take that away from him and, limit his jungle pool because he's not as comfortable on some of these champs and stuff. And it's okay, these are things that, maybe Lyon can try to emulate and kind of learn from, because it wasn't as though C9 didn't have any errors. Their bot 2v2 was losing every game. They got, with 2 winning lanes, they had winning lane in game 1 and in game 2, and they got 2v2 killed in both of them by FlyQuest bot lane. So FlyQuest bot lane, I do think, is a bright spot. But C9's team play was so much better, and C9's play around their jungler was so much better. And it's so even though Sven and Vulcan with winning lanes got 2v2 killed both times in the first 2 games, then C9 would have a fight around Crab or whatever, and Sven would get kills and get plates, and he would just always be way ahead. So it never actually mattered. So I mean, if I'm Lyon, I'm just trying to study this series and say all right, how can we actually emulate this and try to do the same things to Griffin and to FlyQuest that C9 just did?
It would be very hard, I think. And I would be a little bit worried for FlyQuest because on one hand, they did get a lesson from C9, but on the other hand, this reminded me of the lesson you get as a North American team going internationally and playing against a Korean team. It was that level of gap between the teams because even though the games were pretty one-sided, in game 2, I actually thought FlyQuest were in a pretty good spot to win. They had a crazy scaling comp they had the Azir, Sion, and C9 started falling behind. They kind of were playing a comp where you have to just stack dragons to win the game. But they started fumbling, and I thought, okay, FlyQuest is just going to win this because they've got massive scaling advantage. But C9 managed to get back into the game in a way that I feel like no other team would do, which was basically just playing with tempo very well. They set up the map extremely quickly, and then FlyQuest were just a little bit uncoordinated with their entire team, which I think against most teams, you're not getting punished that hard for that. You know, your support can be a little bit late on his recall, getting back on the map, but the two plays in particular that game was one where Griffin was on Trundle. He walked not even that far out, just at his Raptors after they got their second dragon. At his Raptors, he didn't even walk into the bush behind Red. He just pinked on the Raptors, and then he gets Vi-Q'd over the wall and killed. And that's just from C9 setting up so quickly. And I don't think most teams can do that. It's very hard for players to sort of buy into this team play tempo aspect thing of, you know, hey, we just need to understand that we have to pressure the map at the same time. That's going to mean sometimes you're going to recall and not have your perfect buy. You have to not grade this wave. You have to be here at the right time. That's really hard for teams to do. So I don't know if other teams are going to be able to replicate that.
And the other time I assume that you're talking about is another Blabber play. I thought
the one on Scion.
Yeah. So Blabber starts up this dragon. He has a ward in the bush that's like right on the curve.
Well, he was hitting the crab.
He was.
If it's the one that I'm thinking, so the one I'm thinking is he's on the crab. The crab is 1 HP. Scion walks into the bush and starts.
Oh yeah. That's what I meant.
So he's
crab, not the
he's
dragon.
queuing him.
Yeah.
And I feel like every team there, 99 out of 100 times, Blabber just uses that full charged Q, takes the crab, backs up. But because C9 are so decisive, he just Qs Scion and then ults him. And if all of FlyQuest were there, or if Azir TP'd in a more reasonable spot, I actually think FlyQuest can fight this and win it. But they just didn't expect C9 to engage so decisively. And so we saw this really questionable TP from Quad where he went from mid lane to bot lane, almost as far away from the fight as he was already. And so he couldn't join, and then the game kind of just fell apart for them there.
Yeah, that's the one where I'm like Blabber made so many of these snap initiation plays, and guaranteed they are talking about this ahead of time. It was too coordinated with everybody else. APA is always right behind him. TLAW wall into seismic shove combos. And you can tell, like, he's not even looking at the crab. You're like, yeah, your champion is like auto attacking it, but he's like waiting for this guy to come and immediately, turns back around. And then the other one, he had another Q that wasn't the Q flash over the red wall, but he had another snap initiation, Q charge, flash into the river. Like, they're especially APA and Blabber. I feel like these two, I really want to highlight Cloud9 and look at the series from Cloud9's perspective, because I feel like we have not had a mid jungle like push timings like this as heavily as Blabber and APA are doing together in a while. And it is really refreshing. Like, they are playing for each other so effectively, I feel like. And it's kind of what we even talked about at the beginning of the year when we're like, oh, dream scenario. Hey, APA might be able to fill like a Niski role, and he like plays for jungle a lot, and he's probably going to be a really good fit with Blabber, and that is materializing, I feel like, in this year already. And especially on these champions that APA is very effective on. TLAW, super good TLAW. And it's a champ that roams really well and plays for other champs really well. And then this whole series, they were throwing a lot of bans at APA. And then he just goes the Galio game also, which you're not like, oh yeah, that's the APA Galio. But he was extremely effective on that as well. He flashed to the river fight, the early crab fight. He was like, yep, I'm here. He got a multi-person taunt. Both him and Quad tried to flash in to be there for their junglers, but APA had the bigger effect with the big AoE taunt, and they got the win off that. And it's just like, I feel like APA and Blabber are delivering us the synergy that we dreamed of.
That's true.
But what's the big swerve?
Well, I was just laughing because we were talking about the Lyon FlyQuest series. And you just gave a 5 minute.
We were talking about the Cloud9 and perspective as well. I just feel like they're the number one team. They deserve.
That's why I was just
gotta look at it from their perspective too.
For sure. Yeah. Their perspective.
Their perspective is we're great.
Yeah,
it is going to be hard for Lyon to replicate that. I think is I know how we got started on that because. I don't think Sane is not the same player as APA. I think that Saint is very much the player who wants to be the star. He wants all the resources. I don't think he's the guy who's going to be leaving his lane at awkward timings and flash engaging a fight. So I don't think Lion's going to be going for that exact same kind of win con, but I do think for Lyon versus Fly that Lyon has, really strong laners. They've got Berserker bot lane, they've got Saint mid, Inspired jungle. So I think that in itself is pretty hard to deal with for Fly.
They don't have the same mid jungle synergy though.
No, they don't. Not at all.
They almost have the inverse of it. I feel like Inspired and Saint they're both individual good players. I mean, Saint has not been having good individual performances in some of these, but and they are certainly do not have synergy.
No, I agree. And when I talk about the Cloud9 plan, I guess I don't necessarily see Lyon as okay, we're gonna beat Cloud9. More just Inspire going into this, thinking about how can I abuse Griffin early game, right? And that's kind of more where my head was at with that stuff, because I felt like Blabber across these two series got significant early game advantages through really smart pathing and stuff. And that's something that I think Inspired can do as well. Inspired is a much more risk averse player, but I also do give Inspired credit and think that he is someone who can pretty much execute on whatever role he is given, whatever role he thinks is best. This is a guy who's really good at playing aggressively, who's really good at playing more scaling and defensive style. So, I could see this series going a similar way as far as dominance level, just because Inspired turbo gaps Griffin. But that being said, yeah, Saint is the real other part of it, where I think Saint has really been struggling. And Saint, you look at Lyon games, and that is kind of the elephant in the room, is that he has thrown a massive amount of games just on his own, just from being in bad spots or getting caught. Some of them aren't necessarily all his fault. You could say, okay, maybe the team is telling him to keep pushing in that Orianna Nocturne game, so maybe that's not his fault. There was the one he got caught where there was the vision bug, so that one, maybe, but it's a consistent pattern. He often gets caught, even with summoners up. He's sometimes not flashing and dying. I remember this
the Galio taunt
on Talia, where he's just
stands
he
there
just
and
slowly
takes it.
walks up to him and taunts him, and he just doesn't flash.
Yeah, that guy's not even moving full speed. He's channeling his taunt,
He's
walking
slowed.
at you, and you have flash.
Yep. So that is definitely a big concern as far as how they'll perform, because while they do have really, really strong individual players, we've also seen some kind of craziness from Berserker and stuff too. So I feel
craziness.
Yeah,
that's what
I feel like this series is going to be a lot closer than the C9 one. And even though Fly just got blasted by C9, I don't know. I'm kind of still feeling like I favor them. I kind of am still feeling like I think they might actually win. I've been really impressed with Masu and Cryogen's 2v2. I think they're playing really, really well. And if they can hold up against Berserker and Isles, I feel like Saint has shown that he makes a lot of mistakes. I think that Dokla has not been having his greatest season either. And Inspired, it feels like he wants to play the game in a very different way maybe than the rest of his team. So I think even though FlyQuest made a lot of mistakes and did get completely blasted by Cloud9, I just don't think Lyon is on that same level. So
one thing I need to point out about FlyQuest that was driving me genuinely crazy watching them is Masu's champion pool and what they've been giving him, whether it's his decision or the team's, I think is so questionable. They basically the top 3 AD carries for most regions around the world are, Kai'Sa, Yunara, Corki, and he hasn't played any of those a single time. I think he's played 4 games of Jhin, which he's lost 3 of. He's playing Aphelios, Ezreal. He picked Sion and Kalista before he picked Kai'Sa. And to me, that's just criminal behavior. I don't know why you're putting this insane AD carry player on Sion. What? How are we putting him on a tank? So I think FlyQuest needs to figure out their drafts, because I do think they're a good team, but with the stuff they're picking, it's just bad. I really don't get it, what angle they're coming from. Maybe they feel like he needs to be on some lane dominant thing. They have to win lane or something like that, and he doesn't want to.
And he plays Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is one of his most played all time.
Yeah, but usually what people say with this champion is, oh, well, her laning phase is weak. They don't want to lose pressure bot or something like that. So super questionable. I think that they'll look a lot better if they can just pick some high tier bot lane champs and actually let Masu carry.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were pretty critical of some of their drafts online, especially I think the Kalista game was one that a lot of people were criticizing. because they kind of did this like full on, like super aggressive, send it type comp. And they drafted, I think, Aurora Nocturne with like basically nothing showing on the other side, right? Like, so it wasn't as though they were like they had seen the full draft and they were responding to it. They just kind of like, yep, we're doing this. And they had this Aurora Nocturne that was like really, really early pick to my recollection. I think those were their first two when they had only seen Orianna. I think that was like the only thing in the draft they had seen. And then they did, a Kali, Callista. And so it was like really, really short range, really, really aggressive. I even thought like maybe I'm just like misunderstanding how they were trying to use the Renata, but like Renata obviously is a great pairing with Callista. But I felt like Renata to me struggles when you're playing against a comp that is like kiting back, right? Renata is so good at dive, and it's like, yes, you can have the other side of the argument where it's like, oh, we're gonna dive, and then you just like throw the Renata ult over the top, and it creates chaos or whatever. But it moves so slow that I find that rarely works out. So to me, even like the Renata didn't super fit, where it was like the other team clearly wants to disengage Nocturne, Akali, Callista, like Aurora, like and kite back, and so. I don't know. I thought that draft was going to be really, really tough to execute on. When I interviewed ThinkCard for the sideline interview, he said that basically they just like wanted lane prio, and like that's what they were trying to kind of go for. But I know I saw a lot of people pretty critical of that draft online.
Well, we should get to. Well, actually, we should do predictions and then get to the next one because we only have 14 minutes till our next meeting. It sounds like you're going Fly then.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Fly. I mean, I could be dead wrong, but I'm kind of feeling Fly.
I still want to buy into this Lyon team.
I'm gonna say Lyon 3-2.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be close. Both of these teams are kind of coming back from tough spots. I think FlyQuest just got a true beating by C9 back to back. And I think when you're one of these new teams, confidence and momentum is a big thing, and they're not going to have a lot of that. So I think, especially for rookie players, it might be hard to bounce back. And then Lyon on the flip side, kind of expected a mental boom and seeing some cracks showing already. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be one-sided, but I think Lyon has the experience advantage, and I think just FlyQuest drafts are not doing it for me.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to bank on Lyon pulling it together for best of fives here and Inspire just leading the way. But yeah, also think it's going to be close. All right, next one.
Yep.
Sentinels Cloud9.
Sentinels Cloud9.
Good luck, Sentinels.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it feels right now. It's like we talk about, maybe TL and Lyon will get back to form. Well, Cloud9 is very in form. They just won. It was one of the fastest best of fives in LCS history. I think it was like fourth or fifth fastest. I mean, the total game time was ridiculously short. All three games were under 30 minutes. Two of them were 25-minute games for Nexus Explosions. And in a day and age where a lot of people are saying the game actually got slower, that's pretty crazy. So they are looking incredibly good. Sentinels, I do think, like Huhi was a super standout. I think Huhi was amazing for them. We talked a lot about those two different series, but I really struggle to build an argument for why I think Sentinels would be like the better team in this series as far as team play. Like I can talk about individual things and talk about how like maybe they could get some advantages here or there. But C9 has been so good as a unit. Like you guys talked a lot about how decisive they are as a mid jungle. And I think how they play around bot lane is really, really good. Even when Sven and Vulcan have gotten behind. So it just feels like that is the struggle for me to try to like build a case for how Sentinels could actually win.
Yeah, I just think Cloud9 are easily going to be able to identify Sentinels' win cons, and Sentinels' win cons are we got to play to Rahel, we got to play to bottom lane. Like we have Impact as our top laner, who is definitely playing better than last year.
Yeah, much better.
But because last year was really rough. But he's still filling the same role. So it's good that he is playing better this year, but I just feel like it's such an easy way to be like, all right, Blabber and APA are going to be able to overperform Hambach and Darkwings in playing to bottom side. I think mid jungle, both playing to bottom side very, very easily for them. Like APA is playing all these roaming champions in mid lane and setup champions. And I just feel like if they attack Rahel and Rahel's doesn't have a bunch of money, then I don't see Sentinels winning. Honestly, I'm predicting 3-0 for this series.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most reasonable guess. Probably what's going to happen. I would also say 3-0. C9 just looks pretty untouchable right now. And knowing this roster, a lot of these players have played together. We've seen C9 have periods of dominance, and usually it kind of stops on their own terms, right? They start drafting.
Their worst enemy is themselves.
Yeah, they start drafting some sketchy stuff. They start going for really weird looking plays. Honestly, their biggest problem is that they just win too much and they lose sight of what's good and they start doing crazy drafts. But maybe with I Will Dominate, at the helm, it's not going to do that this time because they've looked great. And I would love to see them continue their dominance all the way to the end. I just like seeing teams that play the way they are, very aggressive, very, just very dominant in the game. It's just so hard to play against them. As soon as they get an inch, they just take everything. So it's super fun to watch, and I hope they can keep it up. I don't know how Sentinels is going to deal with that. I think they're just kind of get run over.
One of the things that I can't help but kind of think about a lot and laugh about a little bit is, you guys obviously focus a ton on APA and Blabber and like how good their synergy is and how well they play together. And like, I completely agree. And then I don't know if you guys heard the comms listen-ins for Sentinels on the other side, but like a couple of weeks ago, Hui was on the analyst desk and he was talking about how, like they all speak Korean except for Darkwings, and he's talking English, so he's doing a lot of translation, but he's like, but we're going to move towards more and more English so that, Darkwings can be more involved in the midst of the game. And so he can understand what's happening. Well, we heard the comms listen-ins. At the end of the day, they did like a comms listen-in. It was like a highlight roll of the whole series, and they did like, kind of all their winning moments. And I want to say across the 5 games, there was like 3 words of English in the comms listen-ins. And it's like full Korean, and then Darkwings is like, I'm on Ambessa. And then it's, like he's just playing solo queue, right? So it's like when you talk about how coordinated this mid jungle is on the other side, how can you expect that from Darkwings when he doesn't even know what they're saying, right? Like,
why should 4 Koreans have to learn English instead of 1 American learning Korean?
Fair. There you go.
And Hui already speaks both, and so he's having to do a lot of translation. And I know Golden Glue gave Hui a really big shout out for that, which I think is super deserved, because just the cognitive load of doing that and still playing individually super well is just why I have a lot of respect for Hui. He's one of these older players who's playing for a very long time, and I think he said playing super well while also shot calling in multiple languages is pretty crazy to me. But that being said, when you have to go through a translator and like a third person for some of these things, there's not time for that. We had the clip at the beginning of the year, one of the first games that Sentinels played, TLAW Pantheon combo, super bread and butter, easy combo. Hambach flashes in to get his Pantheon stun. Darkwings is like half a screen away, not in range for the seismic shove fall off. And so like, there's not time to be like, so it's definitely going to be a struggle there. Also, Thanatos versus Impact. Who's your money on there? Like especially if it's an isolated lane. If both teams theoretically do play to bottom side and like jungle's showing a lot and stuff, and Thanatos is like, all right, both jungles are bottom lane. Time to get to work, old man.
Thanatos was saying that on the C9 podcast I listened to. They had Anero and Vulcan and Thanatos on this week. And he was talking about how he just kept talking about his favorite change is how people can't lane swap away and stuff. And he's like, Impact plays for his team. I play for my lane. I'm going to be the reason we win. And he's talking about how he really wanted to get player of the game. And in the Gnar one, he's like, if the Gnar game went on longer, I would have got player of the game for sure. Like he had the counter pick and I solo killed him, but I didn't have enough time. And so they're joking about how if they get too ahead on the other side of the map, they have to let the other team get away. So Thanatos can have more time and try to get a player of the game.
I like how the Cloud9 member, they're at that level where they're dominating so much, they're just having fun with a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Because they were also on the analyst desk, like they're always talking about, APA robbed me this week, and then I robbed this guy that week or whatever. So it's they're all fighting to be the best, I guess. There you go.
Well, it should be an exciting week. We got 3 back-to-back matchups. Remember, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's Super Week. We're going to be on Friday. Team Liquid is going to be playing DSG. Tickets are available. We're back in the Riot Games Arena, so if you haven't gotten your tickets, get your tickets now, and we will see you there this weekend. That is going to wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts and YouTube so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. And also, leave a comment. Kobe sent out a tweet for questions. We're going to use a lot of those questions next week. So if you guys have more questions, you want to get them in, drop them in the comments. We'll grab some from YouTube, from Twitter, from wherever else. We're doing that fan Q&A in our next episode. So keep an eye out. We might have more tweets, or you can just respond to the one that Kobe already sent out.
Yeah. And we'll also pull from the last episode. I saw people were leaving comments on the last episode.
There you go. We're pulling from everywhere. Yeah. And Kobe's going to be going door to door. He's going to be knocking on houses, asking for dive
If you
questions.
didn't leave a YouTube comment,
you're going to be in trouble. Kobe's going to know.
I'll see you soon.
He's like Santa Claus. He knows if you've been naughty.
I will let you off, though, if then you use my Pokemon Go referral code. I'll show up and be like, all right, you're good.
Okay. It's a pass. All right, LCS returns this Friday, February 20th at 1 p.m. Pacific on Friday. Team Liquid going to be taking on DSG live in the arena. And grab those tickets. We'll see you there.